George is already recording. Okay.
Okay, good morning. Let's call the meeting to order. It's now 10:06 on Monday. I think today is February 6th. First on the agenda is an election of officers. I'm told we need to have a chair and a vice chair. I've been functioning as the chair, but in order for us to operate, we should have a vice chair as well, a chair and a vice chair, so that one can step in the absence of the other. If anybody on the board and on the committee have any suggestions, any thoughts, any nominations? Everybody's taking one step backwards?
You bet.
Okay. All right, we can continue that to our next meeting. I know this is, somewhat of a little bit of a surprise, so we'll continue that. Why don't we have a pledge of allegiance? Today we have a flag in the corner right behind it.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so we'll have a roll call. Each member of the subcommittee, please identify themselves as being present.
This is Jennifer Nistinoff.
Ted Crawford.
Dean Groves. There's no other members of the subcommittee present at this point. Right. Any public comments? None? Hearing none? Okay. Approval of the minutes. The last meeting was January 23rd, just a couple of weeks ago. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss post orders, rising post orders. The minutes have been prepared and part of the packet. Did anybody have any comments on the minutes? We have a motion to accept the minutes.
I move to accept the minutes as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, so they're unanimous. Thank
May
you.
I have a request associated with this? It doesn't have anything to do with the minutes per se, but at the last meeting, we were read the exact contractual information. Is it possible to get a copy of that?
Just what the scope. of
Right,
the scope
because-
of the work is.
Right, because what I've done is I've gone in and I've taken out everything that, per my notes, didn't belong. And I'm starting to go through and make some updates, but I just want to make sure I got it all. And so I think it would be helpful if I had the actual contractual language in front
I
of me.
mean, the original contract?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, in Word or
whatever,
any format?
whatever. I just wanted it in front of me to make, do a double check to make sure I wasn't taking anything out inappropriately, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
So what were you working off of?
I have the actual document.
Mhm.
I'm talking about the contract. I have the post orders.
Uh-huh.
So what I've been doing is taking out, or what I've done is I've taken out everything that I think didn't belong because the contract was much more narrow
Mhm.
than how the post orders were written.
So you want the contract, not the post orders?
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
The contractual language that was read to us in the last meeting. I think it was Laura read it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll have Georgia send that out to the whole group.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Just as a reminder, everyone, this is being recorded. If you would identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that it can be transcribed properly.
Okay, I'm
We're
sorry.
looking for a better room, better accommodation. We'll hope the next time we meet, we'll have that. That's for all subcommittee. We'll just throw that out there because speak loudly if you can, as long as we're in the theater, so we can do a question.
Okay, sure. That was Jennifer Nistinoff asking for the contractual language.
Speak. Thank you. Okay. Back to the agenda then. Thank you, Jeff. Financial report, there still is no financial report. We do not have line item budgets provided for the Safety and Security Subcommittee to date. So we're still at a bit of a disadvantage in that respect. Items for discussion. First item is new member selection for Pelican Preserve's Safety and Security Subcommittee. We did get one resume, one applicant during the last couple of weeks, Dan Clemens. I don't know if folks know of Dan. He's seems to be someone with about 40 years of more of experience in security and policing. Some experience recently with Fort Myers Police Department as well. I think his resume indicated a lot of security with Con Edison and other entities. I didn't know whether we, as a committee, do we recommend, do we accept, do we just thank the person for joining? Because I think we were all appointed by PPAC, not by our committee. So
You guys make the recommendation, Bob, and if you approve it, then it goes to feedback.
Has everybody had an opportunity to review his resume? Okay. So if you wanted to make a motion, then
does anybody, please make a motion on that, to that respect.
Ted Crawford, I'd make a motion that we approve his membership in the committee.
This is Jennifer Nisanoff. I'll second it.
And any comments, any questions? Recommend approval. All in favor to recommend, to approve that motion? Recommend.
Aye.
We'll make that recommendation to PPAC. Thank you. All right, next item is Prado sidewalk modification to promote drainage. Could you pull up the item, please?
Mhm.
Keith?
I hope.
Yeah, this is it. So I had received a call or contact from Dave Hamilton. Dave, you're in the audience?
I'm here, yes.
Thank you, Dave. So I received a call from Dave a couple of weeks ago to come out and take a look at a situation that exists in Prado. And actually, it exists in a number of locations, but this is where we went out to look at an area where the sidewalk, where the grades on the sidewalk have a low spot near a catch basin in the street, but the grass strip between the sidewalk and the catch basin functions as a dam. So water accumulates in the sidewalk area and creates a ponding effect that gets kind of muddy and slimy and slippery and therefore dangerous as a safety issue. I went out to look at the issue with Dave, and he explained to me the situation. And the suggestion that was being made was to perhaps remove a portion of the grass strip right adjacent to a catch basin. So again, this is in a low spot. This is in a low spot on the sidewalk. And remove the grass, a portion of the grass strip, maybe about 10 square feet is what I put in here. It's about 6 feet long and about a foot and a half wide. And replace that grass at a little bit lower grade with some sort of pavers. The image that is on the screen here is an example of what that might consist of. Is replacing the grass with pavers so that ponded water on the sidewalk will shed across the narrow grass strip into the catch basin. That's the scope of the suggestion, and if it's effective, and Dave, if you could elaborate a little bit, but if it's effective, it's something that might be pursued elsewhere in the community, not just in Prado, but there are places throughout the community where ponding exists. And to me, this looks like a relatively simple, straightforward fix to a potential safety issue on the sidewalks. Okay,
Yeah, so, your question, sir?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Dave Hamilton, and I'm on the Prado HOA board. Yeah, this is an issue that was brought forth to us last year during the rainy season. It was really bad during the rainy season. I don't know if I sent you the picture. We have one of the ladies that lives, she's like, it's over an inch deep. And we came up with, I had Keith Riddle out there, and our Javier Senior from Ameriscape. And we came up with 3 solutions. One was remove the grass, remove dirt, basically lower the turf. But we thought that presented kind of a safety hazard because you can't see. We'd basically be changing the elevation of the ground without a visual reference. And if people step in that, it could cause a safety hazard. So we kind of eliminated that one. The permanent solution is concrete. And there's a couple places where this exists in the neighborhood and throughout Pelican where they've done this, and they don't have this issue here. The middle road was paver bricks. We would have to pay for the paver bricks. It kind of match them, but I got an agreement with Ameriscape to try out 3 or 4 sections along Prado between the roundabout and just past the mail kiosk. He would install them for free. And I got $100 from my board to go out and buy the paver bricks. And he said he has done this in other communities in the area that had the exact same problem and it fixed the problem. So we want to try this here. Maybe we'll keep the pavers or maybe we'll go to the concrete. But the concrete's very expensive. Initial bid was about $1,500 per section. And it's only about as wide as the storm grate, about 3 or 4 feet, about 1 foot, 18 inches deep. It's pretty expensive. So we thought pavers was very economical. It kind of looked like a small driveway. So we think that'll help alleviate the issue. I have the money. All I need is the permission because that strip of grass is owned by GSCDD. It's part of the common area. So we're affecting the turf of GSCDD, and I need the permission of somebody within that organization. I don't know how far up we have to go to do this. And we think it'll help improve the safety of the sidewalk. It happens every time it rains during the rainy season. We had another issue where it happened with the sprinklers, and we put in a ticket, and then what they actually did was modify the sprinkler system because they found they installed too many sprinkler heads. So that part has been alleviated. Now we come up with the rain issue. And as we're coming up to the rainy season, we would like to address this beforehand. And I just sent Dean a couple pictures over the weekend. I found 2 places on Cypress Grove that have the exact same, but it's from the sprinklers.
And that's Cypress Grove and Matarina.
Matarina and Carina across the street from each other having the exact same. In fact, if you drive by right now, the water's still there from 3 days ago on the sidewalk. So we're trying this. It's an experiment, but we've had indications that it should work.
Is there any, so you have a place
Randy,
on Randy Bobinston, Matarita? Do you, you have a spot that has concrete currently?
Yes,
And any that have pavers?
none that have pavers.
None that have pavers yet?
Yes. And I would get the pavers so they would match or as close as I can get them to the driveways in our area. So it looks like an extension. We thought the pavers would be good because it's a visual, hey, there's something different with this land, you know,
It makes,
for people walking. It's not like a hidden danger. So the pavers or concrete is a very visual and something's different. But just by keeping it right at the level of the sidewalk, as Javier told me, will promote the drainage into the storm drain for the thing. And the sidewalks are pitched that way. I had the guy Copeland Enterprise, Scott Copeland, he does all the pond work for GSCDD and that. he used to be a surveyor, so if you look at the streets, the low point where that grade is the low point of the street. It's also a low point for the sidewalks. It's designed that way. So we just have this damming effect going on so we want to try it in there. So that's.
Thank you, Dave. Any comments, any questions? I mean, Pete, this is really in your bailiwick and GSCDD.
Yeah, as David mentioned, I went and looked at the issue, and I support this approach.
So,
Yeah.
Randy, next steps, Bob Gephardt.
There's a PPAC meeting on Thursday, and this could be brought up too. And there's also the President's Council meeting on Thursday. If I can make a suggestion, I would think we should check with the President's Council, see if we can identify every potential spot where this is an issue within the community, and look at it in a larger scope. This seems like a good idea. I know there's one spot that I walk, it's between Solero and Matarita, and it's wet all the time.
Right by the pond area.
Yeah, right by the pond, and it's from landscape, I think mostly from irrigation. But this seems like a really practical idea.
Very practical. Thank you.
And we can take it up.
Bob Gephardt, I totally agree with everything Randy said. And you guys are the CDD. Okay, to answer Dave's out. This is a group that makes the motion that says we want to put the pilots. Nothing more difficult than that. Goes to feedback next week, they'll probably approve it, and then we roll. That'll make it happen quickly. But to Randy's point, we make the President's Council aware of this condition and how we're going to address it. And anybody else that might have similar situations can bring them forward. But you can't approve all of them right now because, especially if you go with concrete. You go with the pavers and it's dirt cheap, then you can do a lot. If you're going to spend $1,500 a pop, then you need to plan that out. But this is the appropriate thing for this group to have.
Don?
Don Bickle, I totally agree with Bob Gebhardt on this. I think it'd be a good pilot project to see if it works. If it works, then proceed with, while you're getting the information, you'll have an idea that it's working. Why drag this thing out? It's gonna take forever.
Even with the pilot, even with the pilot program, we're looking at getting through the rainy season. But I mean, with the President's Council, maybe we could say, hey, let's look at some of the really bad areas. We'll try them there too. Just because it's so cheap and alleviate any safety issues we may have. But
I'll put it on the agenda.
Randy Bidelson, Matarita, it just makes a lot of sense, Dave. I think we can identify this, and we can do something about this. We'll bring it up to the President's Council, ask them to identify other areas, and I'll bring it up to PPAC on Thursday, and we'll
Get a motion.
Jennifer?
I just have two things to add on to it is, it's not only that it's slippery and slimy, what people do is they avoid the area. So what they do is they're walking down there, they go out into the street and they don't just stay near the curb. I mean, some of them really walk out into the street.
Yeah.
So that's a safety issue. And also I've seen near there where there are mosquitoes, and we don't get too many mosquitoes back in that area of the development, but there's always a bunch of mosquitoes and bugs and what have you right in that area.
Standing water.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there are two other safety issues that we might want to think about.
Keith Riddle, so when you guys task your HOAs with this, just be very clear on what you're asking for, because sidewalks get wet all over the place from the sprinklers. We don't want 5,000 locations. This is only where it's a severe location at the low spots and there's film building up. Okay.
And,
Somebody make a motion.
and this is Dean again. I guess I would also caution that in this particular instance, Dave was able to get Ameriscape to offer to do the installation at no charge. I don't know that we could extend that offer to all of the Pelican Preserve, the President's Council, but the point is, I think, that if this is an effective way to drain these ponding areas at a low cost, that it's a reasonable and practical thing to do. And how how it gets done is the next step, but in this pilot program, I think, makes an awful lot of sense. Could we get Jennifer?
Jen
Okay.
Lewis, property manager. I just wanted to touch base. I will add this to the agenda for the President's Council meeting on Thursday. Who should they contact? Should they have them email me and then I'll forward it off to you?
Yeah, I think
You want to do
that
it that
would
way?
That would make
Okay.
it easy.
Okay.
If they're,
It's
you're
for
talking
severe
about for the
spots.
HOAs to develop their
Yeah.
list.
Mhm.
Yeah, they would send the list to you.
Okay,
However, if we have to get anything to the board, it would need to go through Georgia.
okay.
Okay,
But,
So-
but to be clear, again, what you're communicating to the presidents is the fact that this pilot is going to be advanced. Don't quite turn to ask them for a wish list.
Right.
And if they have other areas, to bring it to your attention. That's all. You're careful how you
Yeah,
phrase it.
and don't,
The reason I'm doing this is because of cul-de-sacs and monuments. Somebody over there thinks it's a free, money's falling from the sky, and everybody that wants to do it is raising their hand. Just be cautious for it.
yeah, and it's a pilot. We're gonna
It's
see
a
how it
pilot.
works. We're gonna see how it
Be
works.
aware we're conducting a pilot.
Yes.
And that needs to be in the motion.
yeah, so
Mhm.
would somebody, want to make a motion, Don?
Put a motion forward or second it.
Can someone explain the motion? Make it clear what the motion is.
I think the motion, this is Jennifer Nisanoff again. I think the motion is to recommend the pilot project to go forward as it's described in the agenda today. And that, David has outlined.
Yes. Okay.
So motion made, seconded?
Seconded, Don Good.
A quick clarification. So we're looking at doing 3 to 4 sections of these. So it's not just one
Correct.
square foot, it's about 3 or 4 of them. And just so everyone's clear that how many are there in this pilot.
Okay, I was not clear on that, so that was a good clarification. I thought it was just one location for the pilot.
It'll be 3 to 4, when we actually go out there and look, we're gonna better identify the low spots. But we found 2 that we think we should do between the circle and the mail kiosk. And then 1 further east of the mail kiosk. Because there's like low spots. So that would all be part of that pilot, the pilot is that part I'm proud of. And it consists of 3 to 4 sections of paver bricks that'll be installed.
One more question on this. So the pavers for all 4 spots will be covered by the HOA. And the work will be done by the landscape company for free.
Yes,
So there is no cost involved for us, or it's just a total
That is correct.
project to see if it works. Okay.
This is Jennifer Nisanoff. Do we need a list of all the areas that are going to be affected for this recommendation? I guess I'm a little uncomfortable saying, yeah, I recommend for the pilot to include all the areas that they're talking about if we really don't know which specific areas are being targeted. Is that appropriate or?
Definitely appropriate to identify these 3 or 4 areas.
I go out with my tape measure. I measure from the circle and from the mail kiosk sections of the thing, approximately so many feet east or west of this
That's-
monument. We're gonna put these things for a
Right.
total of X number.
And it's all
Yeah.
within a approximation of 100 feet or 200 feet?
Are you familiar with the Prado section? there?
Yes.
From the roundabout, drive past the mail kiosk to the first house. That's what, 150 yards maybe?
Yeah.
100 yards, 150 yards?
So Keith, he'll give you that list and put it in the motion.
And I'll
Okay,
try
yeah.
to pull up a picture off of Google or something.
Okay.
But put it in there.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other
Alright.
comments on the motion?
Well, I'd like to then amend the motion a little bit because it's not just that one location. It's a pilot program that will include 4, did you say?
3 to 4.
Maxwell.
Next.
Okay, maximum of 4, that's good. Maximum of 4 locations that'll be identified by Mr. Hamilton of the Prado Board and provided to us before any work commences. I don't know if that was too
Second on the
detailed, but
amendment?
I'll second it with one that all expenses will be paid for by the HOA, and the landscape company will take care of it. No charge the installation.
Good addition, yes.
Okay. I think we have it. All in favor of the motion as amended?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion.
Can I ask you one more question? I hate to ask this.
Sure.
Because I'm unfamiliar with the process here. So you've approved it. Now it's gonna go to the PPAC.
And that'll be the end. Feedback says yes.
PPAC says, yep, you can pull our grass out.
That's right.
Okay. And who's gonna put that on the PPAC agenda?
CDDs.
Cindy, thank you. Thank you very much.
Just to ask Ted Crawford a quick question. This is brought up at the president's meeting, that they need to be told that they are gonna pick up the expense, the individual neighborhoods like Prado, or we are.
Just information. Just tell them what happened.
We would prefer not to pick it up for doing the entire neighborhood. But for this pilot, we just don't have it in our budget to do every second. But as it expands, we gotta figure out where the.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Thanks for the input. Appreciate it. Okay, next item C, Cypress Grove Drive, Prado Drive Roundabout. Design permit and DPS, construction phase services. You'll recall a couple months ago, the subcommittee discussed the concept plan that was developed by Florida Transportation Engineering to modify essentially the pavement markings and signs at the subject roundabout to improve the definition of where vehicles are supposed to travel, how to get through the roundabout in a more safe manner. The committee recommended to PPAC. PPAC accepted the recommendation to move forward as far as a construction implementation. But this is for the actual development of the plans, design plans for the contractors to bid to implement the plan. So this has been replaced slightly modified, is reference to Gateway Improvements District, GID, which we know is incorrect. It's Gateway Services Community Development Department. But other than that, this is what the scope of the work is. And it's a $13,000 fee for developing the plans, signing and pavement marking plans, production. That also includes a pedestrian crosswalk across Cypress Grove Drive. And we're also adding a 15-mile-an-hour sign as you enter into the Casella neighborhood, just before the bridge. There's meetings, coordination meetings with the city and Gateway Services, and services during construction. The total lump sum is $13,000, and they estimate 60 days for completion. So what we need is to have this committee deliberate this. If they like it, if they approve it, we'll do a similar vote to recommend to PPAC, and PPAC would be presented with this for acceptance at its meeting on Thursday. Any questions, any comments?
Ted Crawford, is this 13,000 just for the plan or for the actual work?
Oh, no, the actual work was about $24,000 or $25,000. This is for developing the plans, for the effort to coordinate with the city, and during construction, answer questions and comments that do come up.
Don Bickle. That seems like a lot of money for that. $15,000. I mean, are there any other bids for something like that? I mean, if that included the construction, that might be very reasonable, but it doesn't.
This has been negotiated down. This was originally at about $24,000. And the approach that they were going to end up taking was to utilize the concept plan to start the permitting process rather than start to design it, actually engineer it on the drawings. So we negotiated with them to bring their initial price down to this level. Because we had the same, if you would see the initial estimate done, you would have been on the floor. The drawings require a professional engineer's stamp. You can't just use sketches. Unfortunately, for construction purposes, they need to be sealed. The city needs to approve that. So there is a process, and there's labor involved to do that.
So what's the total cost? Do you think it'll be when, totally completed? I mean, this is just a study then.
Well,
You said,
this isn't a study, no. It was a study before. So the cost is, we have a budget of, I think it's $25,000 for implementation, construction, and plus a $13,000 fee.
so almost 40,000 total to do
Yeah.
this.
Yes,
Yeah, Ray
Randy?
Butler from Matarita. Dean, I have a two-part question. The services during construction portion, is that basically a construction management?
It's observation, not management per se, but it's observation. It's answering questions that may come up during construction. It's site visit, it's all of that, but it's not construction management.
Okay, and then Keith, if this is approved and this is performed, then does all this documentation and so forth get handed off to CDD for some requests for bids?
I'll work with Dean on getting the bid proposals. Yeah. And
Because
then
that's gotta be,
that'll be separate.
district has to
That's right.
put out bids for.
Yep.
Construction.
Mhm. Yes,
Okay,
and that'll be a separate approval by this
And,
board and feedback.
Dean, did this didn't get put on the agenda for PPAC yet? Did it?
I submitted it a week ahead of time.
I'll have to check. For sure. I'd hate to kind of surprise the group with this sort of thing if they haven't had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, I did submit it a week ahead of time. I don't recall whether I think I got a message back from Georgia that it has been added, but I can't be
Okay,
sure.
Bob Jefferson.
Yes,
It
Bob?
comes down to it now. You guys, none of us like the cost,
okay.
but if you approve the need, which I think we've talked about for quite a while, then you make the motion and we go forward. The funding will be handled at the feedback level.
Okay, so it did make it.
Yeah. Thanks for checking there.
Ted Crawford, I hate to go back, but I don't remember the history of this. $40,000 seems like an awful lot to spend on this. I'm not sure what created this issue. I know there was an accident there, but I know no other instances. I'm hearing that price, I'm just really skeptical about spending this money. I think we could use it elsewhere.
Isn't this what we did at Casella?
Well, yes,
We had a bunch of lanes coming into one tournament.
well,
So we changed it at Casella
No.
to street markings.
we didn't change it. That's how it was designed.
Okay,
This one was not designed that way.
okay.
This is now being designed to be similar to the other.
Yeah, this is just kind of we did it in Casella and now we think we need to do it in Broderick. Kind of it. Yeah, it was done 5 months.
It already exists, the product roundabout.
Mhm.
So it's a different roundabout, same principle. And yeah, the choices are to do nothing or just spend the money to address the thing.
If you guys, you can make a motion, if you all don't agree, that's why we're here, or agree or
Yeah.
disagree.
You don't want to do it, don't do it.
But the P-PAC has already been, yeah, and they may not approve this, but PPAC has already weighed in and approved the, call it the construction budget for that improvement. But they have not seen or weighed in on the permit, design and permitting phase.
This is not unusual with anything we do. The construction cost is one thing, and the design engineering is a whole other animal down here in Florida and permit costs. And it's outrageous, but it is what it is, and you got a choice of either doing something or doing nothing.
Well, this is Jennifer Nissenhoff. I have just two thoughts, and that one is echoing Ted's comment in terms of what the problem that we're actually trying to resolve. If it was really only that one incident, I think that plays into it. And the other one is, I know it's a lot of money, but what if we did this? What is it? What are we taking money away from? Do we have a feel for kind of weighing the pros and cons of each of the various projects? I'm not sure that we're at a point where we really understand that.
Don Bickle, I don't know, we don't have a budget, we have no line items or anything yet. I mean, you know, and I understand that we're not paying for it out of this committee, but you know, and
Safety and security is going to have a budget. The
Right,
money's already there.
Yeah.
But until the O&M's done, we can't talk about it.
right.
But I wouldn't, specifically, Jennifer, I wouldn't worry about the money in
Okay.
terms of, is it there? Are you taking it from somebody else? The answer to that is no. But
Okay,
we're spending it, and it's resident money.
all right,
So
that's
totally
helpful.
correct in that respect.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
you know, I'll continue on with that. I mean, what other projects are we gonna undertake? It's gonna, you know, approve, it's gonna cost funds that may be more important than this one. I think we should have a priority list and then establish where we go from there.
That is on the agenda, the priority list, but
Yeah,
you know, as we discussed on, it takes a little while to get to things implemented. And this is one that was on the agenda, on the plan last year.
Yes,
We advanced it to a concept level. We got approval, acceptance of that. And not only for vehicular safety through the roundabout, but also pedestrian safety. Crossing Cypress Grove Drive is part of the improvement that's been requested. There's been a number of near misses as well as at least one, maybe more than one crash at that location. And there's all kinds of causes and reasons why things happen. But the fact is that the geometry of the roadway, of the circle, it is not done to accommodate 2 lanes of traffic through it. And when people do squeeze in as 2 lanes, they cause risk.
Yeah, it's a definite bubble.
So this is a project that would address the circulation through the intersection. It's similar to what's at the other end of Prado Boulevard, where the design engineers must have recognized they had a problem. They should have recognized they had a problem at this location, but they didn't. So now it's part of our responsibility, CDD's responsibility.
To be honest, the district never should have approved it.
yeah.
Quite honestly, it's slipped through. We should have recognized this and forced the developer to address it, but we did.
Mhm.
That's the reality of it.
Well, given that, oh, this is Jennifer.
Yeah,
Nissenhoff.
one second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, Randy Bottleson, moderator. Just a couple of comments. I would suggest that consider this to be a higher priority. If you consider the number of residents who use that intersection on a daily basis. I seldom go there, but I know a lot of people do. And the other thing I would just mention is that the life of these projects is not something we have a lot of control over. And give you an example, the Avila neighborhood is ultimately going to get a resurfacing of their roads. But it's been probably a year or so in the works, and it is seemingly not seemingly not something we can do a lot to increase the timing on.
And now some of the projects like, the generator for the gatehouse, the new lighting on Cypress and Pelican, were just kind of, disrupted by the, hurricane Ian. So when it comes to these projects, I think get them on the works, and as they come, we'll figure out how to pay for them.
Construction
These are
for
gate-
2 years.
These are district assets that are our responsibility. And as long as we have, the appropriate authorization and buy-in, we just kind of move along and work them as we can.
Yeah, and this is Governor, but the flip side is if somebody did have an accident next week after we rejected it, well, I mean, seriously, that holds the district
And there's
in some liability.
there's inconsistencies in the development with the other roundabout being signed properly. So that is something to consider.
Don?
I see the issues with this, and to me, it's just the amount of money that's being brought up, and I think the safety is important. I see the issue with the traffic, the volume back in there, and the pedestrian, I see that. And I would probably say, sure, let's do it, but I think we really need to look at monies across the board on everything.
Now, once again, go back to that Avila project. We looked at that and it was going to be about $80,000. And we had a number of different paving contracting companies, professionals who come in and make recommendations and so forth. Subsequent to that, and we approved that at the PPAC. Subsequent to that, we find out there's going to be another $40,000 in engineering fees to do drill samples and a number of other things. And there was no alternative to that project without doing those. So I share your feeling. I'm routinely floored at what we spend in engineering studies and so forth. But they are seemingly just a necessary evil. Oh, yeah, we just have to deal with it.
Evil.
Right. Don?
I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and move forward on that.
I'll second it. This is Jennifer Nisman. I'll second it.
To pursue. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Ask one more question, it's more for Keith. So if this gets approved, is there any additional costs of making sure this gets carried forward for any future markings of the street and it's all gonna be for the future too, right? Every time anything's done to that circle, they're gonna replace the markings.
Right, that's part of
Okay.
routine
Making
maintenance.
sure.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Fort Myers Police Department overtime enforcement. Don, you've been working on this one.
I've been working on this for years. I have not, I've not received any stat sheets from Fort Myers PD since last September. I know they've been in here, there's a total breakdown with Wiser Security and which I'll have to say is Castle Management, and then it goes on to K&W. Because I have not received anything from anybody. I schedule officers. I don't know how much money we have. I think that the procedure should be put to either KW, let them handle all this, or the CDD, because we've got too many links in this chain. And I cannot, I take my job seriously on anything I do. And this is silly for me to schedule employment for officers at $65 an hour. And I have no idea when they're here. I have no idea how much money, I've got left in a budget of $10,000 for this. People need to do their job around here, and it's not being done. That's the bottom line.
This, Bob Gepper, again, this falls under the O and M. Will be revised, I keep saying shortly. I thought it was gonna be last August. Now it's February, it's not done yet. Once it's done, Don, you'll like it.
Don
It's a
Bickle,
very
again,
gray area, you are 100% correct.
this is a simple procedure. Wiser Security can send me a copy of it,
And
and
they
they can
should.
send a copy. I mean, we did it before. It's simple. God, if we can't handle this, we can't handle anything. Let's be
But
true.
this is Dean Groves. There had been some communication, I thought, with the police department, the officer you deal with, Gruber, I think his name is.
Yeah,
And I thought that there was an issue where the officers were not signing up to work overtime for this particular assignment. And it might have had something to do with the rate of pay. And so recently, the rate of pay for the officers was increased to match the rate of pay that the county sheriff's office gets paid. That was part of the communication within the past month that I think that you had submitted to Georgia. So presumably, with a higher rate of pay for what seems like a pretty easy detail to undertake, that there will be people signing up to do this. Then there's the stat sheets that need to be submitted and whatnot, and then paid, billings and payments, et cetera. But we first need to get the police to come in to do the job that we want them to do.
well, I think they've been, that's Don Bickle. They've been in here. I've seen them. And I've seen them sit around. I don't know what they have done. But I would imagine that there's some stat sheets laying up at the guardhouse with
Matt.
Wiser.
Or Wiser Security, you alluded to that several times. We have nothing to do with the Alpine program.
I'm sorry, you have nothing to
We
do
have
with
nothing to do with the Alpine program. They don't communicate with us. They don't give us any information. That's something that's totally been handled by you all.
The post orders indicate that when they come in, the guard hands them a stat sheet if they do not have one, and they drop it off on their way out. And Fort Myers has been doing that, because I've spoken to Steve Gruber. The officers all know to do this. It's on my monthly sheet, or not monthly, but the sheet I send them to them, say quarterly. It's spelled out in their procedures.
Mark Thompson, my site supervisor, Wild Security here in Pelican. They are up there, sir. We also have had, they come in, about 50% of the time, they actually ask for the sheet. We have a sheet read and then when they come in, they are supposed to give that to us on exiting.
Right.
That is also about 50% of the time. They're also in here in different sections, so I have those documents with, Catherine at the time. And also I've had them documented every day that they've shown up on here. Granted, not every day, maybe once, twice a week. But I have all that information for you. I did not know where to send those things at the time, kind of vague area like we're saying.
Well, there's total lack of communications in many things around here. This is just one minor example. We do these post orders. We've got like 30, 40 pages of this post order thing. It's ridiculous. Half the stuff in here we don't need to know. I don't care if he wears a certain badge or a certain thing on his uniform. That's irrelevant to me. That is a policy procedure for your agency. For us, we need to have the policies and procedures for what's supposed to be done within the Pelican community. And it's laid out in them. I mean, what can I say?
We got it.
Jen Lewis,
Yeah.
KW, I just received an invoice from Fort Myers this morning in the mailbox. It was about 400 and change. I'll take a look at that and see what dates that was for. So I guess, Mark, if you want to give me any of those when they come
A lot of
in.
them are no stop sign. We've had maybe 4 tickets since I've been here in a year. So.
Yeah, I just got that invoice
So
this
the
morning
reports need to be submitted as you get them, or once a week
to me.
to Jen,
Gotcha.
And also.
and then dispatched to Laura.
And to Dean.
Okay,
Yeah, and then the second part of this is, if I don't get them in a timely manner, I don't want them. And I don't want to be responsible for scheduling officers on an overtime basis and not knowing how we stand on this budget. I mean, that's something that's really important. So I think, if I can't get the information, I don't want to schedule officers to work the next 3 months and they show up and then all of a sudden we have no money in our budgets. It's all laid up. And then they have ghost employment. I don't know if these guys show up or not. The stats, we get the billing through the CDD
No, it just comes
or
to me.
through, okay, it used to come through CDD because that's where I used to get sheets from. And I couldn't verify them because I had no information. I'd have to run everything down. That's not necessary.
good, okay, Randy?
Yeah, Randy Bottles in Matarita. I wonder if a bigger question isn't, are we satisfied with Fort Myers Police? And if we are not, could we get the sheriff's department? I have had different communications, emails that I kind of keep having to respond to in terms of what are they doing, sitting, blocking our path and so forth. And with Darla Bonk, I'm sorry, with Carol Brocky, for one, responding back that we just don't get the support that we would like to have for the community. We have budgeted money for it. We have people dedicated to look for it. And seemingly Gateway has no problem getting sheriff department to volunteer for their, for their different communities.
I don't think,
So,
it's not their jurisdiction.
pardon me?
It's not their jurisdiction, Lee County Sheriff's Department. Don't think they will go on the property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Bob
have,
Jeffrey, and we're getting a lot of different items. First, let's solve the first problem. The communication supervisor will go to Jennifer at KW and copy to Dean.
Yep.
Everything goes to those two places.
And Laura.
Well, but I'm saying, well, Dean is Laura, okay, Laura.
Yeah.
Put Laura Leroy on the distribution office. So I guess, Dean, if you'll write a letter to them, give them those three names. So that gets the communications over. Randy is talking about the second problem of, and Bob is, we don't know what we're spending. Well, I'm with Dean, historically, Fort Myers has not been willing to cut. There is an initiative right now by the sheriff's department to come over here. The sheriff's deputy was over here last week. They want to cut. The interlocal between Lee County and city of Fort Myers is nothing we'll work out. We'll pay anybody to come and help us. So we'll let them iron that out. Dean, I think I sent you the information on that guy that was over here, the deputy. If I didn't, I'll send it to you today.
Thank you.
We'll take those steps forward. As far as the budget, we've never come near spending $10,000. We want to spend it. We want traffic enforcement over here. So we're gonna do everything we can to encourage that. And I think once we iron out in the new O&M and you get your financial budget, it'll be a lot easier to handle.
And so what I was going to try to get to, Don, was simply this. If we're dissatisfied and we want to get some help from the sheriff's department, and we can get Carol Brockes to use her influence with Darla Bonk, our sixth district representative, and we'll get this committee agreement, gentleman's agreement, whatever it is, looked at more closely and try to get it modified.
We can get something.
Make it go away.
It's not city
Is
of
that,
Fort
is
Myers.
that acceptable or now, or we get crossways with the Fort Myers?
Don Bickle, I totally agree with you. I've tried that. And maybe politically it needs to be done. Because there's an agreement between Fort Myers and the sheriff's department and all the other agencies within Lee County, like Sanibel PD, because I've contacted each one of them and spoken to them. They'd like to come in here and do some overtime enforcement, but there's an off-duty agreement signed that they will not go on anybody else's turf to do it, even though they have legal jurisdiction because they're within Lee County. Sheriff can come in here and do all the enforcement. In fact, I tried it because the back end, the Prado area actually is in the county. It's in Lee County section. And I tried to get them to come in and say, well, part of it is, so why don't you do all of it? And the sheriff refused. They said, we cannot do it because of this cooperative agreement.
Through this group, we'll make that problem go away.
It's a political issue.
We'll make that problem go away.
I agree with you.
Rocky
Okay.
is committed to help us with that if we want to push that subject.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
So that would be a separate, agenda topic, if you wanna
Yeah.
get that ball rolling.
Thank you. Jennifer, were you gonna say something else?
No, I'm okay.
You're okay, all right. And, you know, and back on the post order for a moment, incident reports and things like that, we spoke about those at the last meeting. Within the last 2 weeks, there were at least two crashes on property that I've never seen an incident report about. There was a crash between a golf cart and a pickup truck out on Cypress Road Drive, and there was a crash between an automobile and a bicyclist on Cypress Road Drive, right near the Azura, right near the crosswalk on Azura. No information about that, so we don't know.
Well, here again, Jeffrey again, all information from Wiser should go to three
Yeah,
people.
right.
From this day forward, should go to KW, should go to Dean, and should go to Laura.
Another major, one other major incident, I'd call it major because it is in a way. I mentioned at the last meeting that we had a lady, I forgot the name of the condos and towards the back.
Yeah.
They had a lady come up to the door and knock on the door frantically.
That was Casella.
Casella. Two people, men, were off to the side. She wouldn't open the door, which was smart. They called the sheriff or called the Fort Myers PD. They came out, all that. That happened again, just a few days ago. The same people came back to the same lady's house and did the same thing. And again, Fort Myers PD was called out. There's a lot of things happening in here, and some of the other instances we brought up in the past, the town center and things like that. Nothing is being done about this stuff.
Town Center's
Well-
not under Gateway. It's Jennifer,
Yeah,
property manager.
Yeah, I know,
Neither is
But-
Casella.
but I'm looking at the whole Pelican Preserve.
If all the communications go to the three people we mentioned, everyone will be aware of it. Jennifer's 100% correct. Town center is different. Casella is a private neighborhood, as Keith said. Fort Myers police are the people to call. Our security is quote unquote access control. It is not security. They're not cops. Our expectations have to be aligned to the reality. And through this committee, we will get that communicated to our community.
Yeah.
We'll get there. It's a long way to go. That's why you report.
Jennifer Lewis, property manager. I know there was an incident with a golf cart and a vehicle, and I called the gentleman and he said that they didn't want to call Fort Myers PD, so they did it all on their own. I don't even think Pfizer, I sent a report directly to the board of directors just so that they were aware communication was made, but so sometimes there's incidences in here where they don't want to call the police department. So then Wiser or myself really wouldn't know. I found out from that just through word of mouth, and called the gentleman. Everybody was fine. And they were handling the insurance individually. So we have to
And
understand.
just include Dean and Laura, in, then everybody knows all
Yeah.
three legs in the school,
Yeah.
know what's going on.
Yeah.
That's all we're looking.
Okay, thank you for that, Jen. It'd be helpful because part of our concerns is golf cart safety.
Mhm.
And the incident occurred as a result of some issues with crossings of Cypress Road Drive, CDD roadway. And we have people crossing.
It was a rainy day too.
Well,
So it was
you know, there's always something.
issues with
There's always something,
visibility.
but the fact is, there's some safety concerns along Cypress Road Drive that, as a committee, we've discussed for several years and have not been able to advance any modifications. So, you know, if things are happening and we're not informed about it, then
Sure.
they still happen,
Yeah.
right? They still happen, so we need to know. Thank you. So as far as the overtime enforcement on, I think this is a good discussion. Is there any concern, any issue? We don't have any say in the rate of pay that we pay, right? I mean, that's all that is we get billed eventually for their services, and that's the rate of pay that they collect.
Right, and we'd like to know what they did. That's the purpose of the stat sheet,
Yep.
which somebody needs, I don't know who's, if it's the three individuals, who's gonna then take control over keeping the statistical information on what they did. It's nice to have it, maybe, I don't.
We're gonna get it to you. We know where it needs to go.
It might be easier if somebody else did it that gets them in,
Yeah, yeah,
because
Yeah.
too many hands
Yeah,
in the
okay.
pot.
good, okay, thanks, fair enough. Next one, the e-bikes education. This is a subject that came up probably in a month or so ago, and Ted drafted an email blast, a message that we were hoping to get distributed. So some people have made comments on it. I don't know what the current status is. I had spoken by email to the woman who handles the Pelican Preserve newsletter, and was hoping that to get some space within the newsletter that we could have this message presented to. She never got back to me. So it still is in draft form. Could we pull up the actual document and see if there's anything that we need to modify, or if there's something that we can
Is
move
this,
forward with? And
Ted Crawford, I had updated this to include all the comments I got. So this is, what you're seeing now is what I consider the final document. It needs your approval before I go further, or you can make more changes.
Yeah.
But I had already edited it to include comments I got.
so the effort here was to try to inform the public that there are e-bikes out here. There's different classes of e-bikes, and one of the classes requires registration and a license,
Mhm.
right? And registration equals insurance.
so this is the motion would be to move this to publication?
Well, I don't know, is there even a motion? Maybe there is, but like I said, what we've done in the past, and Ted worked with
Chris.
with Chris from Castle, is on a periodic basis. Sometimes during the high season, it was every 2 or 3 weeks.
Mhm.
There'd be a message that went out community-wide that about a safety topic, some issue, some concerns, try to bring awareness to people. I think that had some effect, perhaps being part of, in the social media world, we might do something in addition to that. And this could be part of an e-blast, could be part of Facebook posting, could be part of whatever.
Newsletter.
Yeah.
Well, I tried the newsletter and would like to try it again, but there has to be a response. Right now, there was no response. The answer that I had initially been told, I think here, Jennifer, was that she works with the communications group for PPCA. And there was no response back to my request. My request at the time was, we have a blast we'd like to get out. We'd also like to have the newsletter modified to include clearly in one place that golf carts are required to be registered with KW, that they have to have evidence of insurance.
Mhm.
And if they don't have evidence of insurance, then they're not eligible to ride on the streets of Gateway Services District.
Jen Lewis, KW, we've checked all the insurance for everybody that registered so far for 2023. We've registered close to probably 1,000 golf carts. If I had to take a guess somewhere in there.
And that's good,
Mhm.
but personally, I'm concerned about the number that haven't registered.
The other
Sure.
500.
Sure,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
that Phil Measy's shared a resolution with me. We were
Yeah.
talking about this, right?
Yeah,
So I think maybe should we slap them with a fine, or can we do that?
well, the resolution, I think, is on the PPAC agenda for
Okay,
Thursday, and it's very possible that it comes back to this subcommittee to weigh in on. But it, again, there needs to be some provisions that have teeth in it,
sure.
right? Because there are people out there driving their golf carts without proper insurance.
We had one gentleman come through the registration with a 2016 sticker on.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, Bob Gepper first.
Well, I like what I read, e-bikes, rather than just having it being innocuous, send it out to everybody. Maybe there ought to be a method or an avenue by which this committee can develop standards. And you vote on the standard, vote on adopting that as a standard. You can start with the e-bikes and then go to the golf carts or whatever. So you have a formalized document that you people approve this statement as being a standard to apply to Pelican Reserve. And I was very bad at not formalizing things. We did an awful lot of stuff verbally. I was coming back to have a fight in the butt. It's much better to, if something is worth the discussion, it's worth adopting it and formalizing.
I'm not sure that it's, that we should have standards, but we certainly should have a procedure that we discuss, we agree, we need to get it publicized.
Well, Ted Crawford.
Jennifer, first.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. This is Jennifer Nisanoff. I have two things. One, I think we're talking about two different things, so we have to be careful there. For the bicycle, I like publicizing this. I think this is really important. People don't understand it. So I'm all in favor of getting it into the newsletter. If email blast makes sense. I've talked to Angela a couple times about communications, and they're really trying to standardize what goes out and how it goes out. So whatever's appropriate. From my perspective, people read the newsletter more than they read the emails. So I prefer to go into the newsletter, but that's just my one input. So we were talking about that, and somehow golf carts got introduced. And I have a
Well,
comment
it was related to,
to say.
there was a connection there.
Well, no, I understand that, but I think golf carts, oh, maybe it isn't, it's on the list of projects. But anyway, for the golf carts, I think that we do need to really talk about that separately. But in terms of how many people have registered, how many people registered last year? I don't have a feel for how many golf carts there are in the community. So when you give me a number, I don't know if that's like 80%.
I'd have to look at the
10%.
binders. We have
Yeah.
Mullen binders.
Okay.
Can I suggest
Thank
that this is on PPAC's agenda to revise the resolution for golf carts?
Okay,
So I think
Maybe
after
that's where I
that is taking place, then you guys can get the revised resolution and take a look at it.
thanks. I knew I saw it on the agenda.
Yeah, Don Bickle. I would like to see us get a small section in the newsletter every month when it
Oh,
comes
that's a
out
good idea.
on just current safety issues. One month you can handle golf carts, bicycles, signage, whatever. And we update that every,
The safety corner or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that's a great idea.
because Jennifer's absolutely right. No one reads the email stuff. You got so much email, you're just
It's,
overwhelmed.
I know, and that's what we're trying to, sorry, Jen, Lewis, property manager, we're trying to cut back on that because of the complaints, and I think that's where the communications committee is trying to structure that a little bit better with Anjali and what needs to go out. So the newsletter would be an ideal section that always have, we all have our little corners that we have to give to Anjali by a certain deadline. I like the idea of the safety corner.
Another thing you might think about doing also when you get some major issue is to post it up there in the library here. If it's something that's important that we need to get out to everybody, it's not, you won't post it all over the place. We have all kinds of things, but really important issues.
Ted, you were going to ask the question.
Well, in response to what Bob Gefford said, we've always had kind of a standard here for the committee. Yeah, safety issues raised. I've always taken care of developing some sort of communication for it. I brought it back to this group, they approved it, we sent it to them. Council management, Chris Santos would send out email blasts.
Mhm.
And he would send them out as often as we fed him to him. He would send them out as an email. I personally believe the email method is much better. I think things get lost in the newsletter because a lot of the stuff in the newsletter is boilerplate stuff that people just skate over because it's been in there for 15 years. And, unless you somehow really isolated the safety court, and I'm not against, I guess what I'd say, I'd rather do both.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
a
I don't
belt
see what
suspenders
harm
kind
is,
of guy.
hey, you want to delete the email? Fine. Most people are at least gonna open it.
Is
So they
the-
might see something.
Is the newsletter delivered by
Every
email?
month.
Electronic.
Electronic and
Okay.
printed.
And the most recent one
Good
was
point.
about
Yeah.
40 pages.
44 pages that crashed 5 times on her
Yeah.
because the server doesn't have enough space on it.
So there was a lot of
She was
information
really
in the newsletter that came out last week that, I haven't seen it myself, but my wife read it. She said it was terrific,
Yeah.
really, really good. So it's got a lot more than what has been in there for
Yeah,
the last
sure,
15
yeah.
years.
I guess what I'm saying, I'd rather continue,
Do both.
the individual blasts. I mean, do both of them.
Do both.
What's the harm?
Okay.
I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what, how we get the information to you folks to do it, and then you can.
It has to go through communications committee too.
Our
generally.
compliments will do it. That's a lot of research.
Don?
Somebody else did all. the
So
research.
something for a communications team to look at would be a message board. Portable message board when you come into community, such as, I'm not sure where you'd place it. It could be in the entryway when you come in, depending on the issues, but issues like boil water notice. You have on a message board out front that's lit, or it could be different ways. They aren't that expensive, about 10 grand. I'm talking about something about that tall, about like that. You can put a short message on, boil water notice in effect. Please register your golf cart, so-and-so date. Major issues, not for every day, but for the more major type.
Jen Lewis, property manager, we're looking at hooking up the hot wire streaming so that you can even get that in your home on that channel that will have the constant updates that come out. So Angelique's trying to work with Brenda Hernandez at Hotwire to get that up and rolling. That'll also be rolling in the coffee area of Brockton Center.
That's
So that-
great. That would be very helpful.
Information,
But
digital.
remember, everybody goes to that gate. Not everybody looks at the Hotmail or Hotwire part, but everybody has to go in and out of that gate. And that's where you get your eyes on everything that's going on, is when you come in.
Yeah, do both. Do both.
Yeah,
So that's a good suggestion. Randy, did you?
Yeah.
I saw your hand. Bob, your hand. Sit on your
Once
hand.
I got on.
We had, just to add what Jennifer, I had talked with Icon before this about getting these blasts included on the TV channel or whatever. I don't think we ever got over that hump, but if you're working on it now, I mean, it would be almost like, take this for example, give it to you and you pump it out any method you want. I mean, you want TV, you want email, you want newsletter, the more the merrier.
You can bring a horse to water.
So following suggestions, we agree on the content, that e-bikes message that Ted, that you crafted and we've had input to. Everyone okay with it? Let's get it distributed electronically by email as well as included in the newsletter. Good.
Do we need a motion? Or?
No, I don't think so.
Now, is that,
Just communication to Jen, sorry. So somebody from the committee needs to communicate with Angelique or with the communications committee to move that forward on what you
well, I can do
prefer.
that. I just need to know who I meet with.
Right in right next to my office, Angelique, she's our communications specialist.
Okay.
She works with the communications committee.
Bob, just a quick question for Jim. what Ted submitted to Angeli or whoever, will that go out or does it go someplace to be sent?
That's a good question. I'm not sure on that. I know that, communication committee meets once a month with Angeli, and I know that they're working on.
Historically, communications that go to the communication committee are not automatically forwarded.
Okay,
They have to be going through the board, get a bunch of approvals, and they edit it, and they change it, and then they put out what they want.
I know,
So just be aware of that.
yeah.
It's not as simple as Ted wrote a great thing, it was approved by this group, that means it's going to go out.
Yeah,
So I guess that's a question for you, if you come back next month and explain how that process works.
Yeah, this is totally different. I mean, before it was like, send it to Chris and he sent it out. No, but, so now there's another,
Yeah, there's a whole other layer.
there's a whole communications committee that.
now who is the communications committee
It's the
made up?
community association has a committee.
They work for KW?
No,
No. the
they're
board.
like Phil,
Until
I
Frank
think
Wolf
Phil
left,
Meesy's
the
on.
line doesn't go out.
I think, yeah, I think Phil Meesy's part of that.
Yeah,
Don't make me down spot, there's a whole bunch.
So where,
But until
I mean, where
Rover
would this,
Proves the words.
where
it
would
won't
this
go out.
missive go? I mean, so it's not just send it out, it has to go through some.
That's why I'm going up there.
yes.
So you're aware.
But-
Jennifer?
On this subject, this is Jennifer Nisanoff. I don't think everything is going through that communications committee because
No,
we've worked, I'm also on the United Way committee and we've worked directly with Angeli. And she's been wonderful about getting it out for us. And believe me, not enough time between when we submitted and when she sent it out
yeah.
for it to go
Good.
through the communication.
Good, that's good to know.
So if you can find out what goes through and what doesn't go through so that we can allay
Okay.
our fears or
We can
concerns,
streamline
or
it.
whatever.
It would be nice to get it distributed during the current high season.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, she gave us deadlines and said, please get it to us by such and such a date.
Yeah, she does have deadlines for the newsletters and all that.
Yeah,
So if I communicate this with her, she'll
Yes.
know what to do with
Yes,
it, or she doesn't
absolutely.
need any background.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, no, no.
And
I can meet with her.
the next
Yeah.
deadline is
Yeah,
either tenth or
absolutely.
15th, Ted, so she should, if you call her like today or tomorrow, you might be able to even get it in for the next one. I don't know.
Just-
Yeah,
Depends on the amount of space she has
and
and
I
that
just
kind of
knock
thing.
on her door.
yeah, no, you can go over there.
Yeah, I've just
Well, I-
dropped in.
I've never been into the inner sanctum, so. I'm not quite sure.
Well, you
I'm
know, you
afraid
have to go
open that
through a
door.
No.
decompression chamber.
Let's go to the next item,
Okay.
revised project priorities.
Okay, this is Jennifer Nisanoff again. In your package is the most updated view of our list for funding for 2023. As we agreed last time, what I did is I cleaned it up based on the discussion that we had. I also put in who I thought the owner was for each particular item. And what I'm hoping we can do today is get an agreement that the owners are correct and get an agreement on a date by which the owner will send back to me so I can include it onto the, well, I guess send it to Georgia to send to me. Well, you know, I just want to be clear. So that we can get the proposed next steps outlined. And if there's a proposed cost, or if we think we know about what the cost is, to get it included in here. If you're not sure, for instance, I did it, an example for number 17, which was the dangerous golf cart crossings. I had a proposed not to exceed number, which I thought was reasonable. We might learn that it's not, but it might be too high, who knows? But, you know, just to give us a starting point. Because what I'd like to see if we can do is get this stuff outlined and even maybe starting on the next steps, as long as we don't need funding, so that by the time we understand our funding, we're well on our way and we don't lose a lot of time. So if I can maybe break that down one at a time, are the owners okay with where they're showing up on this particular list?
Jennifer Ted Croker, I see you have me down for number 10. That's not necessarily something I'm terribly interested in doing,
Okay,
just, so.
okay.
Yeah, that was probably Don or
Oh, that
Don
was
Nine.
Don? Oh, okay. My apologies. I can get that updated. Is that okay with Don?
Right.
Okay. I think we want one name on it, if that's okay, just to simplify the. Okay, so I'll get that updated to Don. Anything else?
you guys want to move to discuss the message board deal in a future meeting?
Can we
Is that,
finish
would
this?
that be on that list? Is that what the purpose of this list is for? Or
This
no?
is for funding,
Funding.
potential funding,
So it
yeah.
would come later if you guys wanted to.
Yeah.
So let's go back up to the top,
Okay,
if you would, please.
sure. The first one is a complete work on the Veneto Vincenza intersection, and that was Dean.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, next one is the police presence on property, which we had down as Don. The next one is dangerous golf cart crossings, which I have my name on. We just talked about the methods to prevent trespassing. We now have Don's name on that. The next one, when you may remember, and for people who haven't been around for some of these, when I take something off the list, I put it on for the next version, cross it off, so it's really transparent that we took something off, and then it gets put on the subsequent tab of deleted projects. Then we have, gosh, I'll have to read it up there because I can't see it. Update stop sign. Well, I printed it, so it's on one page, and that was a mistake. Update stop signs to match the standards, and that was Dean. And the last one, I don't have anybody's name. I'm not sure why that was, but add white line reflectors on 4 land sections of Pelican Preserve Boulevard, Cypress Grove Drive, and Prato.
Yeah.
This was at night. Was this something that was supposed to be removed? I didn't have it as being removed, but I remember the discussion.
It was, I think the discussion ended up to where it didn't seem to be needed.
Okay.
Well,
That's
the reason
unless
why
I- yeah.
we had suggested it was because the annual or biannual refreshing of the painted lines seems to be falling by the wayside. So when the lines don't get repainted, if the reflectors are there at least at night, or even during the daytime, but at least at night, drivers can see where they're supposed to drive,
Mhm.
right? Because again, the paint marks, they fade out over time. So,
Have you guys ever discussed going to thermoplastic striping?
we had in the past and, you know, the price point was,
Yeah.
it was more significant, it lasts longer for sure.
Yeah.
But, and we probably ought to revisit that. There's always the cost issue. And if it's, 2 or 3 times the cost of paint, and we choke on the cost of paint, then,
Thermoplastic would last 10 years.
right. So I think we should still have something in there, and maybe that's the outcome of it, is that we change the recommendation from reflectorized paint to thermoplastic. But not with a plastic reflector. Yeah, Don?
Down there, the only thing is on that, if you're gonna spend any money on markings, are there gonna be any repavement or,
Resurfacing?
decoding of like, Pelican Preserve Boulevard and Cypress Grove? You need to put that in, because you don't wanna put the markings down and then have to,
Not at this time.
okay. So maybe, if we knew some kind of a game plan, a schedule for that, that would schedule then the markings after.
Right, well,
And in between, the reflectors would be very helpful.
We're a long way away from repaving the roads.
yes, the district engineer's got a task authorization right now to do a evaluation on all the roads, all the gateway district roads, and come up with a resurfacing timeline,
So that's a pavement condition.
pavement condition, and that's, I think, what you're.
Yes, right, yeah.
Why put thermo down and it's gonna be
Right.
nailed up and.
There's nothing on the books other than a deal, right?
Maybe the reflectors would be an interim way of handling the situation. Be very inexpensive, really.
Mhm.
So if you want to put my name on number
Okay.
30.
All right, so I want to make sure I'm clear on where we're ending up here. Since we don't know when it's going to be repainted, we're not going to talk about getting the thermoplastic at the moment. We're just going to stick with the reflectors because it's cheaper and easier to deploy. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. All right.
We know
I'll
it's
leave
not
the
gonna be,
verbiage.
it's not gonna be repaved for a long time. I can tell you that without the survey.
Okay, well, then we'll just put,
Is there
but the
any kind
project's
of
gonna be
a-
looking at
You know,
the.
normally communities have plans, in 10 years you do this, 20 years you do this. Where does that align?
Yeah, well,
It's
Jenny,
being formulated.
so would you, in the past, Scott and Chris would have come up with where they were going, they'd have some budget number in the PPAC. And maybe through the O&M agreement, they'd have a line item for road, for pavement, replacing the not pavement, pavement markings. Is that something that you're aware of that's ongoing now?
I think we just have roads and we have one for sidewalks under the budget this year.
But when you think of roads, do you think of the pavement or do you think of the markings? Don't think of any.
It can be any
It can
maintenance
be.
on the roads.
Yeah,
Maintenance.
that's-
So again, we don't have the budget information, but in the past, they would schedule when things were going to be repainted. And perhaps that's a good place to start, since we're not gonna be repaving, resurfacing.
Does it need to be repainted?
I mean,
Does it need it now?
oh yeah, because there's lots of places where it's almost obliterated. Crosswalks, new crosswalks, old crosswalks, you can't.
Do we,
You should move forward with getting quotes.
do you have any vendors that you use?
No. I have a couple. Let me look.
Okay,
Let me look.
Okay, I have a couple.
Okay, one more thing on this one then, a date. So for each of the owners of each of these items, can we pick a date on when you'll take a look and make sure that the write-up is what you want to see and populate the next steps column? Maybe by the next, maybe a week before the next meeting, whenever that is, so that I can get it updated and get it into the agenda packet for the next meeting.
Need a week, you need to have it submitted a week before.
Yeah, that's true, because I have to make the
You need a little
update so
more
that I
time
get,
than that.
yeah. 2 meetings from now?
Yeah, a couple of weeks from now.
Meetings,
Okay,
couple meetings from now, is that what you're saying?
well, that's what I said, but he said a couple weeks and I like his suggestion better.
Let's
Yeah,
keep it
and I've got annual,
Let's keep it
I'll
moving.
shoot you, so you need quotes in a couple weeks?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no, no, no,
okay.
no, just the next
I've
step.
got an annual meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Stick down
didn't
my
mean
neck
to,
right now.
I didn't mean to get you worried there.
No, Very
Yeah,
sorry.
just the next steps.
okay,
And if you have ideas of price,
okay.
that's good too. I'm sorry, Don.
Don Bickle, and Dean's been working with a lighting company on the lights in the front. I have no idea what the dollar figures are. We've discussed, I know a little bit of what the thought is. So I don't know how I can respond and give you a date or anything, because I'm not actually involved in that.
Well,
Okay,
so I can share that information, if I can talk with you.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I'll send a message. I'll send a message to Georgia and she can distribute it to the whole group. But I think if we keep you as the lead point person there. But I'll get that information to Georgia and share it.
And we also talked about the video up there, and we brought that up at the last meeting,
Yeah, I
the
did.
items, to make sure that the video was running in the gatehouse,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's,
because that kind of goes hand in hand in a way with the lighting in a roundabout.
Yeah. all right.
so let's say
So-
in 2 weeks, can we get back to Jennifer with next steps?
Okay. Perfect, thank you. All right. Good, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, any other comments on that item? Work group updates, not know what a work group really is, or an update to the work group. Anybody have any comment, any suggestions there?
The terminology probably should be changed to subcommittee. Work group was the old phrase for you, and now you're a subcommittee.
Yeah, but this is what we're talking about, is everything being updated. It's just, it's a redundant item.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe it's a template from like.
It is.
Pelican
It
or
is.
something,
It is.
yeah.
Member items and report.
Ted Crawford, I was asked a question by a resident, I didn't have an answer to it. The crosswalk by Azura that has the neon cones sitting on it. How did they ever get there and why was that walkway specifically chosen? The issue that the resident has was some people will see the stop on the cone and stop, even though the sign says stop for pedestrians and crosswalks, and they're worried about getting rear-ended. Do we know how they got there? How they got there?
Yeah, it's Bob Gephardt, short-term history. There's two methods for golf carts to exit the Azura side of the highway and get over to the pond side of the highway and then go to the clubhouse. One is a designated area, and that's where the cone is. There's a second crosswalk that was just created by golfers that were unwilling to wait to drive down to the other place. And it was a hazard, could be a hazard, for the cars coming from the Cypress community over the hill and catch a golf cart in the second designated lane. So that's why those cones were put up on either side, just to slow down Cypress Road traffic. That was a major subject of discussion for years.
Yeah, Bob's right. It was a suggestion that I certainly brought forward, and it's been several years ago now. It was an attempt to, again, heighten the awareness of the crosswalk, because that's a pedestrian crosswalk on Cypress Road Drive. It's a high visibility crosswalk. It's got a lot of horizontal lines. Most of the crosswalks in the community are just parallel lines, but that one is a high visibility crosswalk, and they were close calls frequently with people coming out of Azura, with drivers coming up Cypress Road Drive, with pedestrians walking with their dogs in the crosswalk. It was to heighten the visibility and awareness. Whether people stop for a sign that says stop if there's pedestrians here. My recommendation was yield, but the sign that got installed was stop for pedestrians and crosswalks. I personally think it does slow traffic down. I noticed some people stopping, which is, again, in my world, that's odd, but it's a stop sign. So maybe they see the stop sign.
Does it change it to a yield
Right
sign?
there, yeah.
Yeah, that's the location there.
It won't let me do street view.
Florida is a yield to pedestrians and crosswalk state, not a stop. But so that's why I recommended a yield to pedestrians, but the ones that got purchased were stopped. Doesn't matter, in my opinion. The effect is the same. Be aware that there's something going on here. But the golf carts that cross, the golf cart crossing is supposed to be where the crosswalk is across the throat of Azura, continuing on to this path behind,
Back here.
right up here.
Right.
All right, so they cross, can you move the hand up, right, to your right now, to your right?
Right here.
Right there is coming that's coming from the golf course,
Mhm.
okay? And that's coming to here. I spoke with with Heritage last week, and they are improving or replacing their signage to direct golf carts to this crossing here, onto this path. That is only signage. That doesn't mean that that the golf cart operator is going to follow that.
Yeah.
Because most of them come out and cut diagonally across the street.
I was just gonna say, most don't even, they just go straight across and down the other side.
That's right, most. And the reason why they do that is because when they come down to this end, if you keep scrolling a little
Right.
further,
Yeah,
no, you got, yeah, right there,
Right there.
right there. So right at this location, the visibility, there's some vegetation in this area that blocks visibility. And horizontal curve on Cypress Grove blocks visibility. So golf cart operators oftentimes are a impatient group. And they don't like to stop for stop signs, even though it says stop there.
really?
So I know, isn't it surprising? So they creep out and then they go across and they're concerned about being hit by.
Well, it's ironic that we have all those flashing lights and all that stuff for a crossing that most golfers don't use. Isn't that true?
Well, it depends on whether you're going back to the clubhouse, or going out on the course.
Oh, okay.
It's going both ways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You go from
That's right.
Ivis one or not
Yeah,
Ivis.
that's right.
Aaron one, Aaron two.
Okay.
You're going either.
Never mind.
and
I
it's,
don't mean to drag on just for a little thing.
well, it's a very serious location.
Yeah.
And there's something that I think is missing at that crossing that for golf carts is the arrow that points down to this is where the crossing is. You know, as you approach there, it says, you know, golf cart crossing ahead. There's a sign of a golf cart and then another sign of the golf cart, but it doesn't say it's here. So,
Dean, did you let the golf cars know that they have an issue if people who rent their carts are going on the street? Because those carts are not street legal. They don't have turn signals and.
well, that's
some of
what
the other stuff.
the
Yeah,
resolution, I know. I didn't raise that issue yet. It's part of the resolution, I think, that needs to be adopted. They've got some agreement. You're right, they're not street legal. I was told if they put out 20 to 25 golf carts a day, that's a lot. Almost all golf carts are privately owned, but there's still, me too, but there's still 20 to 25 that are club cars.
Sure.
It's an issue. It's an issue, and that's why I talked to them, and I was told that the next communication from the club would have a big splash about golf cart safety. February is golf cart safety month, and there was one line in the message that came out. It was.
Yeah, those golf course carts cross 3 locations on Cypress Grove and 1 location on Pelican Reserve Boulevard.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But the ones where they're going straight across, I mean, that makes sense, you know, it's short, it's quick.
Yeah.
There's generally
Visibility.
visibility for both I don't know, when I'm driving, I stop, I let them go.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time, well in advance of, but I know that cars have the right of way.
It would strike me again, if these are CDD assets, that CDD ought to be requiring evidence of insurance of those private, of those carts owned by the golf course that are on their streets. Right? There ought to be a sticker on them that says there's insurance here, and maybe there's some agreement that
There's
exists.
an agreement, so that's something we gotta look into.
But so many of these things that we come up with and identify, there's no way to enforce.
Remember when it started, so there was no Cypress Grove. It was an initial point. This is something as we have grown as a community,
That's
has
right.
now come to the floor.
But the golf,
Cypress Grove was just a field when I got there.
the golf carts for the golf course should not be on the road. They should
They have
only
to
be,
be on the road. You're right. I agree with you, but they have to be. You can't get to
they
the
can
whole course
cross the
unless they
road.
are.
They're crossing the road, but they're not traversing the road.
Right.
They don't,
It's running along the
And
road.
keep-
Go to the right side of the road, to the left side.
they don't need to be
Keith,
registered.
the only
That's the only
reason
way
I
to
bring
play
that,
Yeah, that's the only way you can play is by crossing.
Right, but that's not
and
using the
the
road.
only
it's
reason I bring that up is that the golf course has no incentive to spend any money in terms of any improving on these crossings. that may be the only leverage that Pelican Preserve might have and district might have. Is that you're using these, you're renting these carts, and they're not supposed to be driving on our roads in this manner. And it is dangerous when you're coming, up Cypress and you're gonna come over the hill and people are in a golf cart and they're going across 4 lanes to get to the other side instead of using the general one.
So
It is a potentially dangerous area.
a combination of signage and, heaven forbid, speed humps in advance of the designated crossing might be something that we need to talk about. But I think we ought to still, on that item, Jennifer, that you are the owner of, that we need to talk further with Heritage on their responsibilities.
Yep.
Any other member items to report?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
What was the resolution of the post orders? And how far are they away from being put on the website?
Well, we got probably, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through. And we didn't finish, but what we discovered was that a lot of what's in the post orders is not being followed. A lot of what's in the post orders was not related to what's in the contract with Weiser. So they're not providing security, they're only providing gate access control and privacy. So we were all supposed to go through and finalize our comments and get them back to Jennifer. I'm sorry, get them back to Laura.
Okay. And so is there any reason why these guys weren't informed about where the status is?
It's not on
You
the
guys from
agenda.
Weiser are sitting here for an hour and a half.
Randy, it comes back to the O&M. They're confused whether they work for the GSCDD or KW. And at this time, KW manages their contract. That may or may not be adjusted when we update the O&M. But when the O&M is adjusted, it will then become clear for all of us.
Jen Lewis, property manager, I had a meeting with Tim Britton and Laura and Chelsea last week, and we went through the whole contract.
So
So he is,
they know
he
where
knows
we're
where
at
he
the
stands
status is.
with, yep.
John?
Now, the post orders, we ought to know what the contract said before we do the post orders, because we're doing it backwards. I mean, how
We
can we do
talked
something?
about
we
that
don't know
earlier
what
in the
to-
meeting.
You're gonna get the contract.
Yeah.
Once we get that, I think
We
we
already
can go
talked
through
about
the post orders.
And we had the words read to us,
Right.
and that clarified and somewhat surprised us. Yeah, we need to finalize our efforts and get that information back to
The
Laura.
contract is the contract, but the post orders is a never ending.
Right.
Constantly updated.
And the idea about getting them on the website is that when we go to the president's council and people are asking about what are the responsibilities, what are the rules, that type of stuff, there is no Reader's Digest way to discuss that. If we could tell them, you go to the website and look at this, and then they can go to the category and see if they can identify.
Absolutely.
I suggest very few are gonna read 40 pages, but, there's gonna be parts of it that they can look for. So that's the idea. Nobody's gonna go through that, find and look for things to point fingers at.
There is near the very beginning of the document, there's a couple of pages that kind of summarize the important, what we would consider to be the important. You're right, we don't care whether they're wearing their white shirt or their black shirts. It doesn't really matter to us. But what they're supposed to do, what the function is, it is important. And what we came to realize is that they are not providing security. That if there are issues with private property, then the residents are to call police, not
Right.
front gate, not the rover. I don't know what the rover's function really is as a result. If we talked about a garage door being open after 10 o'clock at night, and he sees the door open, can't disturb the resident because they don't do security.
Right.
It's an odd situation.
The only thing I got out of it was that the rover's responsibility is to see if any CDD property is damaged.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why have them?
It's a good question. Yes, Bob.
Bob Gepper guys, a historical reason for the road. Going back to 2008. The community felt safer, lack of a better word, to have somebody roving through the community and looking. It was a very expensive proposition. It was proposed to the residents to do away with the road. That was overwhelmingly defeated. Rover's duties, as defined by PPAC back in the day, was that when someone challenged the guards for access that wouldn't present a license or anything, that the rover was to follow them to see if they went off of the beaten path, and then to call Fort Myers to challenge them for why they went. That was the old reason. All up in the air right now, but that, to answer your question, that's what it did. And when we tried to cut it out at one time to save money, decided not to go there again. People wanted it. They
But
felt better.
I think the communication still needs to be had with the community. That, don't be fooled. You don't have a security,
Absolutely.
That's right.
security service here. You have an access.
Access control. They don't have guns, they don't have police power, they can't challenge anybody.
Even having a wall and a gatehouse doesn't give you security. They'll jump your wall.
Right, well.
Or walk through it.
Yeah, I've had that.
There's no gate, you walk right in.
Yeah.
Or step over it.
Yeah.
Currently. Okay.
That's probably, I think, as Randy said, we need a Reader's Digest. Once we get this all figured out, and I can take care of it, put it in some nice little compact thing so people don't have to wade through 40 pages. Here's the important stuff you need to know.
Mhm.
And they will pay attention to that. They won't, and I think we can use them.
Yeah.
Once we get everything.
This is Jennifer Nisnoff. Yeah, as I've been cutting stuff out of it, I was telling you guys earlier what I was doing. It's gonna be much less than 40 pictures because there's a lot of stuff in there that just doesn't apply given what the contract is saying.
One thing about the uniforms, though, you guys said that it's not really needed, and I get that's their protocol and how they should dress, but I think it's important for the residents to know what they're supposed to look like.
Yeah.
They could, if they see somebody that's not matching their protocol, maybe shorten it up a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think that's kind of important.
What I've actually done is I've been restructuring this a little bit, is I actually have two sections. One is really the post orders, and then one is really the instructions from Wiser to their employees, assuming that they want one document. That might be a
Yeah.
big assumption, but I would think they'd only want one document. But then we can worry about how, what they're supposed to be doing on our behalf.
Mhm.
And, oh, by the way, to your point, if you're interested, here's
This is what
here's what they're supposed to do.
look
Because all the stuff about the uniform and the time reporting and the exception stuff, it's important to
like.
them
Right, not this.
and should be kind of important to us because we want to make sure there's good control, et cetera. But anyway,
Okay.
Okay.
Can we set
Sorry.
the next meeting?
Let's talk about meetings. We have, I think, 6 committees now. So we really need to try to stick with the same date and time every month.
okay.
Because it's getting difficult to schedule all these meetings.
Oh, my.
This isn't all of them. So what is your guys, what is your preference?
Well, to me, I think we ought to meet prior to PPAC and probably,
PPAC's the last Thursday of every month,
that's the low.
right?
Oh, no, the second
Second Thursday?
Thursday.
Yeah.
It's coming up this.
Where are we at? We're in the 6th, right?
Mhm.
6th.
Whatever the Monday is.
So
of the
PPAC
second Thursday.
Second Thursday.
Well, so we ought to select a day.
But just keep in mind, if you want to get something on the P-PAC agenda, that has to happen the week prior before the meeting.
So that's what I did. I submitted an item a week ahead of time, anticipating that we would vote on it for recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a little bit of a control. So
So you guys just, so there's, the board meetings are obviously bad days, the ones in red. But what did you got? What's your preference as a group?
Monday works for me, but what about everybody else?
Mondays can work for me. My preference would be afternoon, but we can do morning. And if it works for everybody else, I'm good with that.
Monday mornings, I think.
Is better for you, Ted?
We gotta make sure.
Monday mornings are okay. not
Yeah,
Rooms
afternoon.
are available
Okay.
though. Right now, Janine has you listed for the room.
Uh-huh.
And that calendar is really packed
Yeah.
with room reservations, so we need to really check with Janine as well on
Yeah.
what she's got available.
Is the new room you mentioned, Jen, already packed?
It's we've got some tables in there and some chairs. They've ordered a conference table for there. I don't even know if there's a projector screen up there or not. I think that's the anticipation.
What's going to be available? Right now, that was not.
It may be, there's a Bible group that's switching over there on Friday mornings, that I'm aware of, but yeah, I would think that Janine hasn't booked that room yet. We need to get with her on that.
Want to do the first Monday of every month?
Okay.
But that's not getting it, is it still getting a week ahead of time for the Thursday?
It is what-
Yeah, it'd be rushed.
Yeah, it would be rushed.
March 6th would be great.
So, and you can't do afternoons?
I'm not sure if I can do that or not.
No.
Yeah.
So
I don't wanna-
10 o'clock on the first Monday of every month?
It would work.
I mean, normally I can, but, this March 6th, I may not be able. to.
Oh. Okay.
Normally, that's fine for me.
How about Don?
I'm good, either one.
Jen?
We gotta just check room. I'm available, yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, let's pencil in March 6th.
It's gonna be 10 a.m.
March 6th at 10?
Okay.
Is there an issue with quorum if I can't make it?
So long as we have three.
Or,
Yeah, because Frank's not here.
or,
You'll have Danny.
Would the new member be on board by then?
We may, yeah.
Mondays are, I
Frank
mean,
Estrella hasn't.
Can it happen that quickly? Because I hate to mess things up because I might not be able.
Well, what
to
about just moving on the 6th, do it in when you can be there and then we'll switch over to the other time, the next time?
Yeah.
Would that,
That works for me.
and then, so what's the next time gonna be after that meeting?
April 3rd.
No, time of day, 1:30s in the afternoon? What do you guys prefer for afternoon meeting?
That's fine.
that's good.
Okay, so March is
March 6th is
10.
gonna be 10 a.m. And then moving forward, it's gonna be the first Monday of every month at 1:30 p.m. So if you wanna check on the,
And then, okay, so March
No,
6th.
Ted, you
No,
prefer mornings, right?
Yeah, I want to, Monday at 10 is fine with me, except I may have an issue in the next meeting on the 6th. But Monday morning.
Oh,
at
so
10,
that works good. for
afternoons
everyone.
are out for you.
It's just
Oh,
this next week that might be an issue.
Okay, so afternoons are out for you.
Well,
Got it. Okay, so just 10 a.m. Mondays.
Yeah.
First Monday of every month.
Can I
Right
make
now
a
I'm up.
suggestion? It's your meeting. What is the deadline to get stuff in the P-PAC the week before?
1 week before.
7 days.
Yeah.
So, looking ahead in the calendar, 6 to 7 months out of the year, you're not gonna make that deadline with the first Monday. My recommendation, do it the last Monday of every month.
Mhm.
That way you have at least 1 week and sometimes 2 weeks before P-PAC. Because if you go into, for instance, March is that way, you won't make your agenda.
Hmm.
April is that way. May, you're okay. June, you're not gonna meet the agenda. July, you're not. August, you're not. September, you're not.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
suggestion, Dave.
So I would recommend the last Monday, but
what,
your.
February 27th at 10?
I cannot do it the morning of, the 27th. I'm sorry. I have an appointment I can't change.
The 27th of February,
Mhm.
okay?
Well, we should still have a quorum though.
Okay.
27th, I'm good.
We're doing the last
The last Monday of every month.
Monday
That's what I was thinking. would make
at
it.
10 a.m. every month.
So that would be 2/27,
That's
2/27.
that's okay for me.
and 3/27. Why don't we pencil those in and make sure that the rest of the members of the subcommittee are informed?
Okay,
All right, and then I'll check with Janine also on availability of space.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second it.
Ed, you okay with making that motion? I can't make the motion, can I?
Oh, you can't, I'll second. Did you make?
I seconded it.
Okay, yeah, whatever.
Okay, that's all. All in favor?
I
All right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you
meeting
all.
adjourned at 12:02.
We'll get that thought. It's been 2 minutes before 8.